Hey, today we're making New Orleans style beignets. So you want to start with warm water. This is a pretty easy recipe. I want to show you how easy it can be. Some dry active yeast. We want to mix that up and add 3/4 cup sugar. The yeast is going to eat that up. Warm water is going to activate it. Mix that all up. We want to let that sit for about 10 minutes until it starts to get nice and frothy. In the meantime, while you're waiting for your yeast to rise, you can mix your eggs. You want 2 eggs plus 1 yolk. Yolk is going to add some nice extra fatty yolkiness to your beignets. Mix that up. You're gonna add 1 cup of evaporated milk, 2 tablespoons vanilla extract, and 5 tablespoons of butter. Then mix that up, and then I pour half of the flour in that mixture. That's 3.5 cups flour, and then the yeast is looking good there. That's how you want it to look, nice and bubbly with a nice raft on top, nice and frothy. And I put the other half of the flour, another 3.5 cups, in with that yeast and mixed up a little bit with the hand blender. And then I mix the 2 flours together and finish it up by hand. You could use a stand mixer also, but it's pretty easy. Just takes a couple minutes. Mix the 2 flours together until it starts to pull away from the bowl. You can see that it's starting to pull away nicely. It's not really sticking to the bowl anymore, and that means it's time to let it rest, let it proof. So just throw a nice kitchen towel over that and let it sit for 1.5 to 2 hours. I know it takes forever to wait for the dough to rise, but it'll be worth the wait for sure. And when you get to the end of the 1.5 hours, you can start to heat up some oil. And use a nice cast iron skillet here. That'll help so that the oil can cook nice and evenly. You want to get that on low and just start the oil going. Then now you want to move quickly. The dough is looking how it's supposed to, nice and fluffy, risen all the way. That looks beautiful. So we're gonna throw some flour on the table. This is always the fun part, throwing flour. My daughter Bianca, she likes to throw a little flour too when we get a chance. Try not to get it on the floor, sweetie. There, you're gonna pull the dough out of the bowl and throw a little flour on top so that the rolling pin doesn't stick. And then you're going to start to roll it out to about a 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch. But I like some fat beignets, so I go with a 1/2 inch roll out. And then you're gonna start cutting it. Make sure you don't cut it on a very nice table. Make sure it's a table that your wife says is okay to cut on. Cut it into some nice little squares. Then get a sheet tray lined with some parchment paper. Throw a little bit more flour on that sheet tray so that it doesn't stick. And then once you got it all nice and cut, use a spatula to move it from the table to the sheet tray with the parchment paper. And then you want to move that over to your oil. You want about 350 degrees. We went just a hair over 350, but the oil is going to drop down a bit as soon as you start adding those beignets in. Make sure you're adjusting the flame to keep it right around 350. You don't want it too low because then oil starts to soak in, and too high, and of course you're going to burn your beignets. Watch them until they get to be about that color right there, nice and golden brown. And then the technique is to grab the corner with a spoon and flip it. Boom, boom, boom. You see how that is nice and easy. Oops, I spilled a little bit there onto the stove. Gotta clean that up later. And then dry it off onto a parchment lined with some paper towels, and then onto the plate. And then by tradition, you douse them with powdered sugar. So make it rain powdered sugar all over those beignets, or make it snow. Really cover those puppies up. They're so good that way.
All right, and this is the moment that you've all been waiting for. Finally get to eat the beignet.
So good.